respondent, online viewers, families and friends of our esteemed Professor Ncube. I've seen the family here, and please feel at home. I shared a couple of words with some members of the family to say that I know the area of Bulawayo quite well, and I also happen to know the first Vice Chancellor of NUST, Ukacheni, and of course Samson Sibande and the others. The only person that I may not know is the current one, Utlod, is the one that I don't know. But please feel at home. It is Professor Ncube's day today to come and share a couple of things with us. I always say you're all protocoled because I rely on the two maxims of law, one being de minimis non curat lex, and one being in dubio pro reo. So in gatherings like this, it is possible that you may not acknowledge one or two individuals, and I hope that I will be forgiven. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. That sounds much better. At the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, otherwise known as CPUT, the Professorial Inaugural Lecture is a significant academic tradition that celebrates the achievements of the newly appointed full professors and formally introduce them to the university community. We are introducing them to the community of scholars. We are also reminding them of their role, particularly the legislated mandate of Senate, because according to our statutes, they are members of Senate, because that's where the stewardship of the academic project lie. Some people say Senates are not really a place for petty politics, but it is truly at the center of academic project. And we always remind senators that they are the custodian of the academic project. We are also introducing them to the community networks of academics. And we always say, as they assume their role in Senate, they must know that only accomplished academics must and should govern and adjudicate over academic matters. Sometimes, if they don't concur with counsel, they must actually say so, particularly when academic appointments are made. It is also one of the keystone habits that we celebrate occasions like this. This is a habit of successful institutions across the globe. Program Director, Ms. Cassie Klute, these public lectures mark the professors' official recognition and showcase their academic journey, research interest, and the impact of their work on society. The primary purpose is to present scholarly work to colleagues, to students, and the broader community, fostering engaging discussion on contemporary issues and challenges within their field. Inaugural lecture promote interdisciplinary dialogue and collaboration among different faculties, reinforcing CPUC's dedication to a vibrant academic environment where knowledge and excellence are shared and celebrated. The Professorial Inaugural Lecture is a cherished tradition at CPUT, reflecting the institution's ethos of academic rigor, community engagement, and the pursuit of knowledge. I've known Professor Ncube for quite some time. She's very well known to me. I've known her when I was a DVC researcher at this institution. I was tasked with building the research enterprise of CPUT, being the very first DVC research. It was not easy. I remember quite well some of the challenges that we had. I'm happy I've seen Mr. Joe Alberts here. That small water and sanitation unit, it was besieged with a number of problems under Professor Al-Khadin. If I was having time, I was going to tell you stories. And I was told that, no, there is a research fellow coming from the Netherlands. And I asked Professor Al-Khadin, who is this person? He said, no, it's Bongani. And I thought, Bongani is a gentleman. No, it was Bongani. Bongani has a lot of issues in terms of the travel and settling in South Africa, a number of issues. But her sheer determination was something to behold. And I realized then and then that we got a gem here, and the rest is history. And I know at one point they will drive this bakkie steed. We bought him a bakkie steed to all the Brother Refir and the areas, the catchment areas. And I will see this lady driving this bakkie for field work. And of course, the others will not talk about them, Mr. Alberts, isn't it? There were a lot of things that were very, very tough at a point in time. But that cannot detract on the quality of work that was actually happening in the unit. And a number of water research grants that we were having at the time. And a massive NAFIC grant that we had at the time. And today, fast forward, we are talking about the Sachi Chair in Governance and Economics of Water. We are talking about somebody who ensured that we can actually start talking about agricultural economics, and how we can ensure that when you talk about impact, we really talk about the impact. We're talking about somebody with PhD in production ecology and resource conservation from Wageningen University. And at the time, I Googled this university to say, let me have a look at the university. This university is very, very strong in agriculture. And I think if you want testimony, you must ask the students who are supervised by Professor Ncube. They will tell you a story that they are supervised by a very good individual. And they are always finishing within the stipulated time, within the statutory period. And a lot of them are the Vice Chancellor's recipient of the prestigious awards. That is not a mistake. It's because that's how she was trained, very meticulous. I'm talking about those events of 2013. And of course, we wanted to explore the potential of nature to improve the quality of life. That was what the NAFIC grant was all about. And then, of course, within that short space of time, you are talking about the NRFC3, which is a designation of an established researcher in South Africa with a sustained high-quality record of research productivity. You're talking about an associate professor within that particular period, and you're talking about a full professor today, and many publications in social media. and many other areas. I'm talking about the Oscars Award, the NSTF Awards, all that exposure that you are having is as a result of the hard work of Professor Ncube. And then, of course, you are talking about the research chair and many book chapters. What is critical about the whole thing is that we can talk without any shadow of a doubt about the evidence of research impact. Today, when you are doing research, funders and everybody else are saying if you are to be an anchor of society, your research must have an impact. You can talk about sheer advancing of knowledge. You can talk about societal and economic impact. You can actually talk to Professor Ncube. I've talked about the Brede Overberg Catchment Management Area, or BOCMA. I end up knowing those particular areas because of the Center of Water and Sanitation Research. I met the CEO, Buthelezi, who was the CEO at the time. It was because of people like her. We are also talking about the Spanjar Kloof water treatment plant near Elim. These are the people who expose us to that in terms of water treatment. And we know that in this country, that is becoming a big, big challenge. Not so long ago, we had a challenge and the outbreak of cholera in Hammanskraal. But we do have a capacity as an institution in terms of the treatment of these plants. In conclusion, this university is growing fast to become what we are saying is the MIT of Africa, and we must celebrate our real achievements. I know, ladies and gentlemen, that there are challenges. That's why we are meeting here today, not on our campus. Those are the challenges that we are having. But we also know that tough time never lasts. Resilient people, resilient organization do. So I was saying to the people, we will not cancel these events. This event must go on because it's about our people. We have to acknowledge our people. It's also because the society has entrusted us, you and me, with this masterpiece of an institution. It is therefore our duty to ensure that we preserve this institution for the future generation. We must bequeath and leave this institution in a far much better place than we found it. And as I said, I also wanted to acknowledge all the people who contributed. I did not see Ashadia here. The HOD of civil engineering. Online, okay. I hear you're online, Ms. Kamali. I wanted to acknowledge. She played a key role because every now and then she used to say, VC, but this entity must come back to the faculty. It cannot stand outside, it must come back. And on the other hand, Professor Lakhadio said, no, it must remain here. I don't know the politics that happened that he ended up being outside. But we wanted to acknowledge you, HOD, for your role, and I'm sure that your department is actually benefiting from all the publication, from all the output that you're actually getting from having this entity in your faculty. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I wanted to say, Nkosi mawethu, Diabulele, magube kuhle, kube mandi, kube mhlophe, nangamso. I was about to sit down, And I could see that some people were unhappy. They said, but remember, as an institution, we have 3 official languages. So you will be excluding some of us. So we always say, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your afternoon with us. It is indeed a great pleasure to have you here. But I'm not stopping there. I should also say, baie dankie dames en here. Vir hierdie ongelooflike geleentheid om enkele gedagtes met u te wissel. Dit is vir ons 'n groot voorreg. Ons weet, dames en here, dat ons leef in 'n snel veranderende eendag in Suid-Afrika, waarin veranderende die enigste konstant geword het. Ons toekoms is nie meer dieselfde. Baie dankie and enjoy your afternoon.
Thank you, VC. Thank you, Vice-Chancellor, for that warm and inviting welcome for one amazing individual, Prof. Ncube. And also thank you for setting the tone for today's inaugural lecture, VC. Thank you so much. I'm going to call on the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, Professor Suresh Ramsarup, and he will read the citation for you. Thereafter, Prof. Bongani Ncube will come on stage, to the podium, sorry. She will come to the podium to do her presentation. Thank you, Prof.
Vice-Chancellor, members of Executive Management, fellow deans and assistant deans, members of Senate, colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, including our online viewers. It is both an honor and a privilege to present the citation for Professor Bongani Ncube on the occasion of her inaugural professorial lecture. Professor Ncube's journey is one of intellectual depth, resilience, and profound societal impact. Prof. Bongani Ncube was born in Kesi in the Motobo district, south of Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. Her academic foundations were laid at the University of Zimbabwe, where she obtained a Bachelor of Science honors degree in agriculture, specializing in soil science. Her early professional career in Zimbabwe's Department of Natural Resources placed her at the forefront of environmental management during a period marked by significant ecological challenges. As an ecologist and later a senior ecologist, she engaged directly with many environmental issues and challenges, including river pollution from mining and landfill activities, experiences that would shape her enduring commitment to water research and sustainable resource management. Driven by a deepening interest in water systems, she pursued a master's degree in water resource engineering and management, supported by a Belgian scholarship. During her master's studies, she was recruited by the International Crops Research Institute for the semi-arid tropics. It has the acronym of ACRISAT, where she spent 7 formative years conducting agricultural research in semi-arid environments. Her academic journey continued when she received a scholarship from the Netherlands to pursue a PhD in production ecology and resource conservation at the Wageningen University in the Netherlands. Her doctoral work focused on cropping systems and soil fertility in semi-arid Zimbabwe, contributed significantly to understanding how smallholder farmers can improve productivity under challenging environmental conditions. Importantly, This work resulted in multiple high-impact journal publications, laying the foundation for her future scholarly influence. Professor Ncube's leadership capabilities became evident during her tenure at WaterNet, where she served as a research leader and later as the deputy manager. She led a major multinational research program across South Africa, Mozambique, and in Zimbabwe, coordinating 14 partner institutions. During this period, she also mentored 7 PhDs and 38 master's students conducting research within the project. She assisted with coordinating the MSc programs across 6 universities in East and Southern Africa. Her ability to integrate science, policy, and capacity development across borders is a hallmark of her career. Her international experience expanded further in the United Kingdom, working for NGOs, including Excellent Development, where she contributed to non-profit initiatives addressing climate resilience through innovative water technologies, such as the sand dams of Kenya. This work not only strengthened her expertise in applied water solutions, but also demonstrated her commitment to community-based adaptation strategies. In 2013, Prof. Ncube joined the Cape Peninsula University of Technology as a researcher in the Center of Water and Sanitation Research, where her impact had been both immediate and sustained. Recognizing a gap in access to water for smallholder and emerging farmers, she initiated research that has since informed national discourse on water access and agricultural sustainability. Her work in this space reflects a rare combination of scientific rigor and social relevance. Her dual role in teaching and research led to the establishment of the water and agricultural research niche within the university, an important institutional contribution that continues to shape interdisciplinary research. A defining milestone in her career was her appointment in 2022 as the holder of the South African Research Chairs Initiative, by holding the chair in governance and economics for water and sanitation sector institutions. Through this role, she leads cutting-edge research aligned with global imperatives that cuts across 4 Sustainable Development Goals, particularly Sustainable Development Goal 6, which looks at ensuring access to water and sanitation to all, SDG 11, that talks about sustainable cities and communities, SDG 10, that talks about reduced inequality, and SDG 5, that talks to gender equality. Her research goes beyond technical solutions. It interrogates governance systems, financial models, and institutional frameworks to improve water service delivery. In doing so, it addresses broader societal challenges, including inequality, urban sustainability, and social cohesion. Prof. Ncube's scholarly output is both prolific and impactful. She has produced over 150 research contributions, including 55 peer-reviewed journal articles, book chapters, 3 books, and 11 scientific research reports. Her work is widely cited, reflecting her standing in the global research community. Her citation indices are currently H22, the H index 22, I-10 index 39, and Scopex index 17. Additionally, she and her students have made 48 presentations at mostly international conferences. She has also given 28 keynote and plenary addresses and has participated in several panel and special session discussions. Equally noteworthy is her success in attracting research and scholarship funding. And to date, that exceeds 30 million rands from major national and international bodies. Her commitment to developing the next generation of scholars is evident in her supervision record. She has successfully graduated 2 doctoral and 9 master's students. In addition to that, 2 more doctoral and 2 master's students will be graduating in 2026. The research chair currently has 55 affiliated members, comprising of 22 staff, 15 PhDs, 18 master's students. 6 of the students are registered at partner institutions, and she's also mentoring 2 postdoc fellows, one at CPUT and the other at the University of Pretoria. Beyond research and teaching, Prof. Ncube has played a significant role in institutional leadership and capacity building. She has contributed to advancing postgrad supervision practices at CPUT and actively mentors emerging academics through the Sosonke Supervision and Monitoring and Mentoring Program. Prof. Ncube has also developed an extensive network of national and international collaborators, culminating in several joint research projects across countries and continents. Her professional recognition is extensive. She is an NRF-rated researcher and a registered professional natural scientist, registered with the South African Council of Natural Scientific Professions. She's a fellow of the Water Institute of South Africa, a member of the South African Soil Science Society, the South African Wetland Society, and a long-term member of the International Society of Organic Agricultural Research. Her leadership extends into governance and policy, where she has served on national and international advisory boards, chaired national, provincial, and regional advisory committees, and contributed to strategic water management initiatives in South Africa. She has served on several NRF international research review panels, NRF rating panels, WLC review panels. She's also a reviewer for several high-impact journals. Currently, she's the chairperson of the editorial board for the journal Water SA. Prof. Ncube's excellence has been recognized through numerous prestigious awards. Prof. Ncube has been a recipient of several faculty and institutional research awards. In 2017, she was the recipient of the Water Research Commission Knowledge Tree Award, and that was for the empowerment of communities, which recognized projects that made an impact on community empowerment aimed at improving lives of South Africans. In 2021, she received the Water Research Legends Award in recognition of her contribution as a WRC partner, researcher, and leader who has brought national recognition to the South African water sector. In July 2025, Prof. Ncube was the winner of the 2024-2025 National Science and Technology Forum South 32 Award. And more specifically, she was the recipient of the NSTF Water Research Commission Award. In August 2025, she won the 2025 HRSA Higher Education Women Leaders Trailblazer Award, underscoring her role as a leading woman in higher education. I think just to put the national awards into context, when you make a submission as a nomination to a national award, you have many nominations from research-intensive universities and from historically well-resourced universities. And for Prof. Ncube to win against those nominations really tells you something about the scholarly work and the societal impact. Her work has also gained public recognition, featuring across national and international media platforms, further amplifying the societal importance of her research. Two notable publications are, in 2025, she was featured in the book Amakhosazana Amanzi, Celebrating Our Women in Water and Sanitation. And this was published by the Department of Water and Sanitation and the Water Research Commission. In 2022, she was profiled in the Water Research Commission book, Legacy, Celebrating South Africa's Water Pioneers, Pathfinders, and Mavericks, in recognition of research and legacy in South African water sector. Colleagues and guests, Professor Ncube's career exemplifies the integration of science, leadership, and social purpose. Her work not only advances academic knowledge, but also the practical realization of equitable and sustainable water access, one of the most pressing challenges of our time. It is therefore with great pride that we recognize her as a scholar of distinction, a leader of impact, and a professor whose work continues to transform lives and communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Bongani Ncube.
My nephew said I should remember to bring this thing down. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by protocol. The Vice-Chancellor, Professor Chris Ncube, you already know that I have a long history with him. He left out a lot of things that happened when we started. It was an interesting start, but here we are. Thank you, sir. To the Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Professor Marshall Sheldon, I call her the woman who makes things happen. Good afternoon. To our Dean, Professor Rams. He's Professor Rams, but we call him Professor Rams. Thank you, sir. Professor Mg, thank you for coming. Professor Hayströmer, Professor Mdara, thank you for joining me today. It is an honor to have you. May I also acknowledge the presence of two of my brothers this afternoon, my nephew and my son, Alfred, somewhere there. If it wasn't for Alfred, I wouldn't be here. Because on the day of the submission for the professorship, I literally said, I give up, I'm not doing this anymore. And he said, Mom, you've spent months writing this thing. What is wrong with you? I said, it's so difficult. I still have so many things to do. And he literally forced me to finish and submit it. So thank you, Alfred. May I also acknowledge our HOD, Ms. Kamali, online, and our team from the Department of Civil Engineering and Geomatics. I can see some of them smiling at the back there. Thank you for coming. Joe, I recognize you. He's been our pillar, let me put it that way. And friends, colleagues, a lot of my friends are here. Sandra, you're sitting somewhere. Yeah, you owe me lunch. And then people online, I know there is quite a number that promised that they were going to join. Bramley, let me acknowledge someone who knows how to, when I grew up, I was called Mazilankata by my family. That's my totem. And there's one guy who knows how to do that very well, even on LinkedIn. He doesn't shy away. Dr. Godongo, thank you for that. I love it when you call me by my totems. Friends and colleagues, it is my honor to stand before you this afternoon. Professor Fester, I must acknowledge you online. I know you're watching. we had to make an application with Professor. And this application required us to write things in a language that would be understood by everyone. So when I was making this presentation, I remembered that, that when we would write and she would say, no, remember, people need to understand this. So this afternoon, I'm presenting to my brothers, to my friends, to my colleagues, to people who all these years didn't know what I was doing. So for the first time, my brothers, well, I think will understand what I've been doing, why I sometimes say I cannot be there in many things because I'm out in the field somewhere. I laughed when the DUC referred to the WSTID. I drove 2,000 kilometers in that bakkie one time across the Western Cape. And Professor Lahadin, I hope he's watching, he's the man who introduced me to the water sector in South Africa. And I remember one time him looking at me and saying, how come you know the Western Cape better than me now? Because I was always in that steed in the field. So Prof. Lahadin, thank you. Colleagues, I'm here to give you a brief history of what I've been up to. So let me start by giving you an outline of what I'm going to talk about this afternoon. I'll give you a brief background, and then I'll talk about my early years. I'll talk about smallholder farming that I am known for. I seem to receive so many things when it comes to reviews for smallholder farming. I actually thought I must be a smallholder farmer myself. And then I'll talk about the work in the Limpopo Basin. I'll say something about the work in Kenya, and then agricultural water management in South Africa, drought impacts in agriculture, which is really what I've been doing in the last 13 years since I got here. And then I will introduce you to our research chair and some new ideas of where we think we are going. I'm showing you this picture, these pictures rather. It's not me, but when I saw these children, I actually smiled because I remembered myself. This is exactly how I grew up. This will probably be my brother Busani. He was very naughty, my late brother, and me surprised behind him. And you see this girl, that's definitely me in the mud at home. And this is how I grew up. And with an element of a lot of surprise whenever strangers came. This is Tanzania. These children are from Tanzania. The girls, the other two girls, they are from Pochini in UKZN. This is actually 2008. You remember it was raining when we went to Pochini. We had come from Tanzania, and then we had to have field work in Pochini, and it was raining when we went there. And these girls were doing their thing, and I was like, oh yeah, that's me. This is how you would not see pictures of me when I was a young girl, because we experienced two wars or two political situations that made us leave home with nothing. So we left whatever was there when we were younger, we left it at home. But from around Form 1, grade 7, that's my late mom. And yeah, that is Alan. Whenever he sees this photo, he says it looks like I didn't tell him I was going to show this photo. That's me in Form 3. I was already a prefect, and that's my father. Our family is a rainbow family like South Africa. We've got whites, we've got blacks, we've got coloreds, we've got everyone. So, and this is me during high school, really, more than anything else. During the holidays, when I was in high school, I spent my time chasing after 4 children. That's Ketiwe, Alan, Sabelo, and Lindiwe, my brother's children. I was the official nanny during the holidays. So that's that's my early years. And you've already heard, I already told you how we had breaks of war and everything. But how I ended up in Dadaya High School, which is in the Midlands, it was because my secondary school headmaster, which was a feeder school for Dadaya High School in Zhishavane, actually insisted that I go to that school. I almost wasn't sure where I was going to for high school, but that's how I ended up at Dadaya High School. And I spent 6 years there, and it was a very good time. And unfortunately, the last year we also had issues at the school, and I ended up at North Lee High School in Bulawayo. So on Friday, VC, when Kathy phoned me in the afternoon on Friday, I literally said, it's happening again. I'm not sure if this is going to happen, you know, but here I am. By the way, I didn't mention to you that I'm the last born, so VC, it's fit that I do this last. This is my my position. Honors in soil science, you heard about that. Our class was actually made up of 6 people. We had one maverick who was never with us, so he's missing on the photo, but that's my class for undergrad. And of course, I was the only girl, and whenever it came to taking pictures for the faculty and everything, I was ahead, you know, center of attraction. But we had a great time at the University of Zimbabwe. It's a place that laid the ground for the work that I do, because we were equipped to grow in fields that we never thought we would. So I appreciate the university for that. Let me talk about my first job, and that's definitely me. I can assure you I already had Alford by this time. So in the Department of Natural Resources, we had an annual trade fair. So this was a trade fair at our trade fair stand, and I was manning the stand. But let me talk about my work at Department of Natural Resources. I was a researcher. But of course, in government research, there wouldn't be much money in the area, but we did whatever we could. But I dealt with some very interesting things during that time. The Victoria Falls town with a lot of baboons. If you think there are baboons in Cape Town, the Victoria Falls is probably #1. Waste management in the Victoria Falls was a big thing, waste management in Bulawayo. And then, of course, fish poisoning from a colliery mine in Wange. And, of course, some dams. And so my interest in water was actually steered there, because I thought, I have done soil science, but this is quite interesting. So when a pamphlet with scholarships landed on my desk, I literally was like, oh, this is it. So I applied, and 5 of us were given scholarships. And of course, I found myself in another class of 9 gentlemen and myself. There were 10 of us. And I remember one of my colleagues saying, are you sure you are here because you deserve to be here, or you are here because of affirmative action? I was very angry. Very angry. I said, you are not going to say that to me. So, but later on, as we went on, he was like, oh yeah, I think you deserve to be here. Because he said he had never been in class with a female. I said, what makes you think it's a mistake for me to be here? So it was an interesting time. Let me tell you something that I say to myself during this time. Because our MSc was a taught masters. Our lecturers came from the Netherlands. They would come and teach, and after teaching, exam. The toughest time I've ever had in school. And I literally said, I will never go back to school again. This is it, I'm done with school. So during that time, I did a project. I must acknowledge Bulawayo City Council here, who funded my master's project, where I was looking at accumulation of heavy metals in soils and in water at Ezelbe Farm. It was quite interesting, and I felt important that time because the director took me very serious on this research and actually insisted that they actually help me in the laboratories criterion laboratory to analyze my samples. So it was quite an interesting time, and we, at that early young age, to come up with results that were meaningful to the city. It was really good. But during this time, when I was finishing my master's, I actually applied for a job at International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics, which is ICRISAT. At ICRISAT, I actually arrived around the same time with my, my boss, my supervisor, Dr. Steve Tomlo. We left us in 2022. But I pay tribute to him because he's the man who made us who we are. So our first assignment was to finish a project that was in the process of ending, but the person who was there before us left without writing the final report. So I spent my first year at ICRISAT reading reports and compiling, and we came up with my first publication, which was a book on improving soil management options for women, and it was a project in Malawi and Zimbabwe. I was very proud of this, my first publication, my first formal publication. I mean, we'd published things before, but this was my first formal publication as an editor. From there was, it was during a drought, actually, in the early 2000s, and relief work was being given to farmers in Matebeleland, in Masvingo, the dry areas in Zimbabwe. And Dr. Tomlo and the others had this big project, and this project required, people were being given, you know, when there's a drought, when people are struggling, they just get relief. So people were just getting seed for planting, but without knowing how best to use that seed, it was going to be a challenge. So there was this collaboration between non-governmental organizations, ourselves as ICRISAT, and the government to come up with what we called trials, which is really like experiments in farmers' fields. And we had 1,200 of them. And we covered 170,000 small-scale farmers during that time. And our work, we called it microdosing. Microdosing really is putting small amounts of fertilizer. Remember, they were getting 25 kgs of fertilizer, which is not enough to cover the whole field. So how best do you use that? So our job was to, how best can the farmers use this fertilizer, and how best can they get yield, harvest out of these trials. So we found that actually farmers realized a 30 to 50% increase in yield. I covered Wange district during that time, which was, I had 400 trials to look after in my area, and others were covering other districts. And we came up with some interesting outputs. One of our best performing journals, articles in nutrient cycling, which is, these days they called Q1 journals, Q2 journals. So it's a Q1 journal where we've got a publication called Microdosing as a Pathway to Africa's Green Revolution. And we also produced a report. The guy in the picture, Martin, is actually the country director now at ICRISAT. He was a scientific officer like us that time, but he's now the country director. So in this work, we produced a pamphlet. This pamphlet was translated into Shona, Ndebele, and English, so that every farmer could read it. And I mean, it was great fun writing this and making sure that the farmers understood it. And the work really gave us impact across the country, because we were also covering areas in other parts of the country, Masvingo, the other areas in Matebeleland. So during this time, it so happened that I can say a scholarship appeared. It was not earmarked for me in the first place. So when the PhD supervisor came, I was like, no, I was not planning to do a PhD yet. Remember my experience in masters. So I still had trauma from my masters. I was like, no, I wasn't planning to go for a PhD now. But then at the same time, here is money. So I said, let me think. And he said, I give you 2 weeks to go and decide whether you want to do a PhD or not. Meanwhile, give me your results. I gave him my results. 2 weeks later, I responded. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to do this PhD. I mean, after all, it's the best university in agriculture. And I had always, I had met this man when I was in third year, when they came for a conference at the University of Zimbabwe. And you know, there are those people that you see and they're like, oh, this is the professor. And so I knew him. So there was this thing that says you don't want to do a PhD, but this is one of the best people in the field. So I agreed. That's how I ended up at Wageningen University. And my work was actually around looking at nitrogen use, looking at semi-arid systems, how the farmers were using resources. So we looked at low rates of manure, low rates of fertilizer. We looked at how to establish indigenous legumes, bambara, groundnut, cowpea, and we tried to introduce even pigeon pea to Cholocho. Prof. Mdara would laugh at that because it's a crop that is not known in Zimbabwe, but we tried to introduce it. And our also big aim, because our institution was working with Australia on a model called the Agricultural Production Simulator, my work also contributed to testing that model in the region, in Southern Africa, in smallholder farming system. So my results from my work really, it showed that productivity of a legume phase in the dry environment could overcome nitrogen supply. So you grow a legume, and then the following cereal actually benefits from the nitrogen that is left in the soil by the legume. And then for the farmers in Cholocho, we also found that they actually also benefited, their crops, especially sorghum, benefited, and maize benefited from being grown after the legumes that we were trying. So that's me out in the field. This is our sorghum site in what we call Lucidol, and with my friend Professor Mpangwade, who's at IMWI. I hope you are watching. We had a great time there because when I was going to the Netherlands, I did what was called a sandwich PhD. So I did field work in Zimbabwe, and then coursework and the modeling and everything in the Netherlands. You can see in the bottom photo there, we were actually in a soil ecology PhD project, PhD class, and we had some activities in the field. So whilst I was in Zimbabwe, I would be working in the fields and in the rural areas. Whilst in the Netherlands, it was class and other things in the university. Out of my PhD, my PhD students can believe me now. I produced 4 journal articles, yes, in Q1 journals, and my thesis is a book. So those were the outputs from my PhD. It was an interesting time, but quite a satisfying time as well. When I finished my PhD, I was too qualified for my job. I was a scientific officer, so the rule in the institution was once you get a PhD, you can't come back to the same position, so you have to leave. I had 9 months to leave the institution, but I left before 9 months, and I got a job at Waternet, based in Harare, and Waternet is an institution that is a network of more than 60-something institutions. I must say here that CPUT is actually a member of Waternet, and people who are working in water every year, you can come to us, we will link you with the other people in the network. So we represent CPUT in that network. But I think you've already heard from Prof. Ramstrup that I led 6 universities, the master's degree program, which was really selection and giving scholarship. I also ran the annual symposium, and I chaired the scientific committee of Waternet, the annual symposium. And yeah, the great work that we did during that time, because I was actually employed as a research leader for a project. And this project had 14 partners, and out of these partners, we managed to publish 39 journal articles, 2 books, 14 book chapters, and a lot of reports and working papers. It was quite a big project, and it was quite fulfilling at the end when we got our review that we were actually one of the projects that performed the best. The project was one of 9 projects across 9 basins in the world, including Mekong Basin, including the Volta Basin up north. So in the south, we had the Limpopo Basin, and there were all other basins across the world. So we were one of the best performing projects in that work. Just to show you some pictures from Waternet. So this would be one of our workshops, the project workshops at Wits University, which was one of the members. A visit to Zambia. Yeah, I was so amused to find this photo. I was scared of this animal, but at the same time, it was nice to stand next to it. During Waternet, we also attended the Train the Trainer conference in Panama on climate change. You know, when climate change was becoming hot that time, we attended some of that training. The picture at the bottom here is actually the projects, the 9 persons across the region, across the world, gathered in Addis Ababa to present the different projects. And we were one of the projects there. And then these are some of the field photos. Prof. Dara would probably, I'm not sure if he recognizes this, but this was in Makanya catchment in Tanzania when we visited as collaborators in the project where he was. And then this is Mpochini, where I took the photos of the children. And down here is Chokwe Irrigation Scheme in Mozambique, where one of our PhD students had his project, and we had to visit there. So this is the offtake of the canal from the Limpopo River inside Mozambique, not in South Africa, into the irrigation scheme. And this is Lake Victoria in 2009 when we went to the Waternet conference there. 2010, actually 2009, I moved to the United Kingdom with quite some ambitions to go and work with NGOs and everything. And yes, when I arrived, I got one, excellent development, it was called. And we were working on SENDEMs, and the aim there was to influence adoption of SENDEM technology by communities. So back to communities, back to smallholder farmers. That was quite interesting. But I also heard of a role of grant management, monitoring and evaluation, research and advocacy. And of course, during that time, we were also developing an NGO in Kenya, setting up a new one. And I'm proud to say that NGO is still running in Kenya. I'm quite happy for that. Maybe just to show you what SENDEM technology is. It's really, you build a wall, a concrete wall across a river or a stream, and you make sure there's a bedrock at the bottom, so that when the sand gathers behind that wall, it also gathers with water. And it is this water that becomes the water that the farmers use. So it's big in Kenya, and this work also went to Zimbabwe. We were visited by one Zimbabwean colleague when I was still working for the NGO. So sand sinks at the back of the wall, and you can actually, for big sand dams, harvest up to 10 million liters of water, which becomes available for farmers, which they can use either for drinking, for agriculture, which is why it is actually a climate change adaptation strategy, because people have access to water even when it is dry. Just to show you some pictures. Yeah, when we went to the field, we did some work, men and women, during the construction. So this is how you set up the concrete wall. And a complete sand dam looks something like this. So this is the sand that is gathered behind. underneath there is the million liters of water that we talk about behind the wall of the Sendam. So this has actually been a game changer for communities, for small-scale farmers in Kenya and other regions where they've been promoted. Now, this is where I was rushing to. I arrived at CBUT in 2013, and Prof. Lahadin calls me to his office. He says, you see, this is space where you can grow, you can be what you want. And I took him very seriously on that, because when I was in England, I reached a stage where I was like, after leaving excellent development, I entered into jobs where I started questioning myself. Like, this is not what I want to do. What is it that I want to do? I just remembered the farmers, the small-scale farmers, the work in the field. I mean, I grew up in the village. I think the village was calling. So I literally said, okay, I'm going to South Africa. When this job was advertised, I don't know if Joanna is watching, she actually sent an email with this job. And I applied right at the end of the deadline, and I got a call from Chris Mwanda, and he said, you look like you are the one that we want on this job to come and finish this project, because he was going for his PhD. So without, I think, giving too much thought to it, I accepted. I accepted, and I came to South Africa. And the GVC, that's what he was trying to say, that when I arrived, I was like, this is not what I thought. And then I was like, but I don't think I'm going. I like this job. I think this is interesting. I'm going to stay. So the work that we did, the first project, was on indigenous knowledge. That's how I drove the 2,000 kilometers. That's how I became known for the Baki, because I had to collect data for this project and complete it, because the Water Research Commission was on the neck of the institution. And Professor Ncube, when he was DVC, he didn't joke with deadlines and organizations not receiving their things on time. So there was pressure. But we finished this project very well, and we managed to publish the report, journal articles, journal article, book chapter, and surprisingly, this is where indigenous knowledge began to be heard. I remember attending one conference, and one of the scientists there saying, but Bongani, this is not science. And you know, when you are young and you think, I actually said, what makes you think that modeling is more accurate than indigenous knowledge? Because when you are doing modeling, you are also estimating things. At least indigenous knowledge, you are depending on what we've seen before. You can imagine that kind of an argument in a conference. So, and then suddenly indigenous knowledge gained traction. I remember being invited to the Western Cape Drought Dialogue to say, we understand you're doing this work. What have you been doing? And of course, Water Research Commission Heritage Day, and suddenly it became very interesting. And of course, my institution couldn't be left out. I was featured on Heritage Day at CPUT as well, which was really nice. I don't know where my friend Apiwe Boyce is. And during the data collection for the indigenous knowledge, you know, you were asking farmers questions. So indigenous knowledge, what is it? Do you have and everything? And all you could hear from the small-scale farmers was, we don't have access to water. And I was like, what do you mean? And then I realized there is quite a number of things behind it. So I wrote a concept note. And let me acknowledge my friend. Elle-Marie is sitting at the back there. They were coming to CPUT because we had a partnership with Bokma that Prof. Ncube mentioned. So they were coming to CPUT, and I had this concept note, and I think 3/4 of it, I got things wrong. And Elle-Marie was like, no, but this is not how you should be writing it. And then I said, okay, let's write this concept note together, then I'll write the proposal. So that is how our first project came about with Bokma as a partner, with Barito small-scale farmers, with Hex River Valley, and we now wanted to understand why are we having these issues of I have access to water. what is it, what is going on. And of course, our approach was very academic. Focus group discussions, we record, we transcribe, we present to Water Research Commission. But when we presented to the institutions, I remember we were sitting at CPUT, we literally looked at each other and the institutions were like, oh, actually, this work, we should look at it in a certain way. From the farmer's side, we sat with Hex River Valley and the small-scale farmers. The farmers were, of course, they didn't have access to water. And of course, the waterways associations, there was some of the black farmers in the waterways associations were like, oh yeah, but even if you are a member, you do not necessarily get the water. And then a classic one, we do not know where we get to get assistance. And then institutions, of course, we need to be coordinated. BOCMA, the Department of Water and Sanitation, Department of Agriculture. We need to assist emerging farmers, but there is not enough waterways associations. What can be done to ensure that those poor farmers will have access to water? Those are some of the questions that we were probing. And institutional systems were complicated for each organization. That's the Department of Water and Sanitation. They are at national government, so they know. But the beauty of what happened during this time is that as institutions, their work changed from interviews, focus group discussions, to dialogues. We now invited the farmers into the room, the institutions into the room, and we really threshed the issues. What are the issues? What should be done? And we came up with 4 priority issues. Shortage of water, of course, was a big one. Access mechanisms, the water use license, the processes and everything. It was taking up to 300 days to get a water use license that time. And then, of course, reliability of supply of the water for agriculture. Lack of information was a big one, and especially the water use license process. Lack of funding, of course, was a big one, and the land shortage, lease agreements. And then as institutions, as colleagues, we were like, we cannot do anything about funding. It's a government thing. We can only help with licenses. But what we have an access to, it was information. So we developed what we called a farmer information package. And the package was really a collection of the information from the different organizations translated into isiXhosa and Afrikaans. And seeing the success of the first roadshow that we had at the conclusion of the project, the Water Research Commission gave us another 300,000 to continue with the work. And the Catchment Management Agency, BOCMA, were like, this is good. We are also going to contribute. So BOCMA was funding our accommodation as we traveled, whilst the Water Research Commission funded the package. And we developed a web page, which is live even right now at the BOCMA. We are still using it. And the big thing that came out of this project was the trust that we built between the institutions themselves, the trust that we built between the farmers and the institutions. By the end of that project, in 2018, when we finished the work, we had reached more than 400 farmers across the catchment management area. And like I said, I think we have reached much more because the web package is still accessible. Then once we were finishing this work, drought happened. The 2015 to 18 drought, the popular drought, the famous Day Zero drought. And it was interesting that when we went to the site, actually, we found that some of the farmers still didn't have access to relief, to resources to deal with the drought. So during this time, we developed a new project, actually, which was going to look at how farmers coped and adapted to the drought, to that drought. And we decided to break this project into student projects. which is what we do for most of our projects. So we had 2 PhDs and 3 master students working on different objectives of the project. And the approach was largely the same across. We had surveys of 200 farmers in Limpopo. We had 112 farmers in the Western Cape and focus group discussions. What was disturbing from the results was that most farmers only managed through drought relief, which is the help that they got from the government, not from their own resources. But of course, we found that there were some few things that farmers did, like crop diversification, drought-tolerant crops. Drip irrigation was quite popular in the Western Cape, and reducing livestock numbers. Like the livestock is getting thin, there is drought. What do? You sell it, and you remain with a few to survive. And then, of course, we found that both sides, borehole drilling was seen as a long-term adaptation. I'm proud to say out of this project, we got 5 theses of 2 PhDs and 3 master's students and 7 journal articles. And proud of the students who were on this project. They all finished within time, which we are very proud of. So during the drought period, it so happened that one of my friends invited me to this meeting in Stellenbosch. And there we had some British colleagues presenting on water management, on what their thoughts were and how we should manage water and everything. And months later, I received an email inviting me to be part of this big project supporting transformation, transformative adaptation and building equitable resilience to drought for sustainable development. We had big dreams, let me tell you. But can you see the period? It was 2019 to 2023. Whilst we were just starting, COVID happened, and we couldn't do anything. We were told the funds have been reduced, and we tried to do things online. It was just not working. But we did whatever we could, and somehow we also got a bit of money back. So as CPUT, because our job was to work with smallholder farmers, we still managed to collect some data, which was looking at how how farmers experienced the drought. And surprisingly, some areas like Worsley has got a spring. The water comes from the mountains. There was no drought there. But areas surrounding, the farmers struggled. There were issues around drilling water from the boreholes and upstream, downstream issues, huge issues. So from that project, we have still managed to write something. Last year we published finally the report from that project, because the project was located in Kenya and South Africa. So we have written a report which is led by the Institute of Development Studies in the University of Sussex in the UK. We wrote that report, which was published in 2025. And we also, our PhD student in Stellenbosch wrote a journal article that is looking at pathways to just food systems in food. And then we also have a journal article that is under review as we speak that is looking at adaptive performance governance. So we are comparing how governance is experienced in the water systems in Kenya and in South Africa. So that is under review. And then, of course, we are also still compiling how the fruit and vegetable farmers experience the drought. Out of all the work on drought, we were invited to present at the annual extension symposium in the Western Cape. And we presented all the projects, all the work that we had done. Actually, one of the recommendations that we had received, especially for the PhD student, was that we should write a policy brief. So when we presented this work, the director of research at the Department of Agriculture actually said, "Can you write a document for us on this drought work, because this is very interesting for us." So we wrote a document with broad recommendations for research on drought and access to water in the Western Cape, which they published at the beginning of 2024. There, we have broad recommendations for drought, which is how to implement national drought policies that should prioritize meaningful development for the smallholder farming sector, because we tend to treat smallholder farmers as if they are just some of the farmers. And we also need to strengthen synergies between adaptation, between the different systems. And we also need provincial governance to improve coordination. Because one of the strange things that we found was that as much as the department was managing drought, it was being implemented by an organization called Casidra. Now when we try to contact the extension officers, they would be like, I'm not involved in that. But meanwhile, they are the ones who provide the list of. So we thought there were coordination issues there. And we also, of course, recommended that there should be proper monitoring and evaluation when it comes to implementing drought management. So we feel we did our part in terms of contributing to the understanding of drought and how it impacts communities in the Western Cape especially. Professor would go, remember you are working on water now. So, but whilst I was working on water, I still managed to collaborate with colleagues in soil fertility, because that's my other passion. So we had a PhD student, Arole Adotunji. I hope you are watching. I don't know what time it is in America, because that's where he is now. That PhD student is one of the students that convinced me that supervision can be nice, you know, because he was so patient. He produced, as professors who supervised him, I must stand here and say we are proud to have supervised him, because one of the review papers that he led is actually sitting at 622 citations, and another one is sitting at 495. Those are publications that were led by him. I mean, it's not every day that you see that. So we are proud of this work. And then we also had a master's student, Ole Tusindesi. He was working on what we call zeolite. We were actually testing the capability of zeolite as how can you use it to save water in agriculture. And he has also surprised us, because he has written 5 journal articles from that work as a master's student, not as a PhD. So, I mean, students like that, they make you want to continue supervising. And of course, my friend, Professor Mpangwa Walter, the one I worked with at ICRISAT, he has kept me in the field. So we write almost every now and then, we write an article, and we have written 4 journal articles that are related to agriculture, to soils, to water, and one is actually under revision. So I must appreciate my colleagues who keep me in the field with this. Prof. Leo, Walter, it's been, I have 1 foot in agriculture, but my dean shouldn't hear that. I have 1 foot, not both feet, in agriculture. So we still do a lot of agricultural work. During working in this field, we have published some books. I already mentioned that my thesis is a book that is published by Wageningen University. In 2017, we were invited by, because we were involved in the South African Systems Analysis Consortium, they invited us to write some publications, like really that were looking at systems. And I was invited to write one on precision agriculture, which I luckily wrote with my friend Walter and a professor from the International Systems Analysis Center in Austria. That chapter in the Systems Analysis Approach for Global Challenges book is doing quite well. And then during COVID, I had a very interesting experience as well. as COVID started, we had just concluded a conference which was looking at water which was called W12. It was led by the Americans, and I think that was the last conference I attended before 2020. Out of this work, we had written area-focused chapters. I was looking at access, I was looking at sanitation with my colleagues, Prof. Mafa from the University of the Western Cape. And the chapters, the work that we presented during the conference, we then decided during COVID, we actually met every 2 weeks or so to discuss what we're going to do with it. And the result was a book which is looking at towards the resilience, towards the blue-green city. It's a publication that we are very proud of, because in this book, there is economics, there is social access, there are all aspects of water in this book. And it's a book that is also doing quite well. We were also invited for other chapters. Oh yeah, Prof. Mdara, we were invited by the Water Research Commission actually for their 50th celebration, and we published a chapter there on socioeconomic research on water in South Africa, which was interesting to write also. Yeah, so that's the work in terms of agriculture, water. But now, I need to tell you about where my bread is buttered. Where we are getting our livelihood now. So, I lead a research chair, South African Research Chairs Initiative, research chair in governance and economics for water and sanitation sector institutions. I must appreciate my colleague, Professor. I must appreciate our Deputy Vice Chancellor. She was Dean at that time. I was so surprised when I saw the email where she wrote that we should do this. We should try to apply for this research chair. And she actually described how it was going to fit in and everything. And then Professor came to me and said, "Don't you think this is going to give you stability?" I said, "Yeah, Professor, there's 2 weeks' time. There's no time left." She said, No. You write the content. I'm going to look for everything that is needed. And that was a big commitment, because I don't know how many letters. It's like justifying your existence as an institution. She gathered all those documents, and thanks to Prof. Sheldon, who was signing some of because we didn't do it during the day. I mean, there was no time. I remember asking Tanya Holmes Watts at 4 a.m., "What are you doing?" She said, no, this thing has to go on time. So I'm working on it to make sure that we submit this on time. And Professor, she actually said, "I'm not going to sleep until you have submitted." So that's the people who were around me when we applied for this research chair. And we see, we have hard workers. We have good people in our institution. So the research chair is actually under the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. These colors. I actually wanted to wear a green dress. This is this is our faculty, and the research chair falls under the Department of Civil Engineering and Geomatics, because we are located at the Center for Water and Sanitation Research. And you already heard that there are 55 of us now. When we say 55, we're talking about 55 regulars. We are about 60-something, 63 when I counted last time. There are others who come and go. But the regulars, we are 55. Dr. Mhlongo is here. Dr. Williams is here. Dr. Langamandla is here. Those are all members of the research chair from CPUT. I hope I haven't left out someone who's a member from CPUT. Joe is here, of course. He does the running around. So there are quite a number of people, and we are dreaming, let me put it that we are dreaming of converting this center into an institution. I hope I'm not selling myself out here, but the DVC keeps reminding me that this is necessary. So yes, DVC, I'm thinking about it very seriously. So what does our research do? We work across, we are under what we call the Water Research Development and Innovation Roadmap. So our research chairs, there are 2 of them, they are national. One is based at the University of Cape Town, and one is based at CPUT. We work across, you heard already, SDGs, Africa Agenda, the SADC Water Research Agenda, the National Development Plan, because water is seen as one of the things that will get people out of poverty. That is why we address water this way. Of course, the document that South Africa is using is the National Water Resource Strategy, which has been revised 3 times. We are using the 2023 one now. So we address issues that are in these imperatives, whether it's National Development Plan, the Africa Agenda. So when we write a proposal, there is always, where do you start globally? You go regionally, you go South Africa, and you end up where you want to address. We've got 9 research objectives. But there are 3 main ones, and we've broken them into 3 each. So, but the main one, the first one is governance and financial economic viability, the water sector institutions. So it's the catchword there is institutions. So how do the catchment management agencies, the water boards, even the local communities, how do they manage water? We also talk about financial sustainability in those institutions. We remember, it's not just water, it's also sanitation. So, and then we have to support knowledge transfer. We were struggling with this one, but I think we're getting there because we now have the community of practice. That is its role. So, yes, thank you. The TVC is clapping because it's been a long journey. So, the research chair is broken into projects, because you get this research chair and funding, and NRIF says, now you fundraise for it. You bring money into the research chair. You bring students into it. So we've got projects that are running within the research chair, and we've got projects that are led by students. I do not want to spend too much time on describing what each one does, but I'll just give you the headlines and what we are getting out of them. So we've got the one that was looking at water governance, institutions, and infrastructure integration for climate resilient pathways for smallholder farming systems. We've had a great time with this because when we were doing this work, we went back to the sites where we worked with the first project that I described, and we discovered how farmers were now doing things differently based on the findings from the previous projects. So in this project, really, we were looking at availability of water, we were looking at impacts of climate change, we were looking at infrastructure, we were also looking at governance and institutional arrangements. How do the smallholder farmers experience them? And then, of course, what are some of the pathways that we are going to come up with in terms of to address climate change? We have postdoc Dr. Evans Shoko somewhere. He has been the pillar for this project, and he is a big brother to the students. And I'm proud to say that the master students that are graduating are actually from this project. And the doctorate he has completed, he is actually the recipient of the DVC, the Vice Chancellor's Awards. So there is a lot of people that are contributing to this. And the DVC would love this. 8 journal articles are coming out of this project. 5 have been published. 1 was actually accepted last night. And we are writing 2 more, and the report has been published. And we were invited to quite a number of conferences where we presented this work. The next project is a collaboration through SASUF. This one really, it was a project which is also seed funding from NRIF and from SASUF Sweden. The aim was really, how can we build research based on this work? And it was a collaboration between us, CPUT, UWC, Stockholm University, and Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. I'm glad to answer the DVC that we're actually exploring a new project on this, because what happens in this project is you get this little money, but we try to stretch it to develop new projects out of it. We've written quite a few Some successful, some not successful. But there is a conference in Brazil that is happening in July. That is actually an outcome of this project. So we are hoping we can expand more on this work. The other project, Governance and Economics of Non-Sewage Sanitation in South Africa. Like I said, that we're not just addressing water, we're addressing sanitation as well. This one is actually looking at national policy and legislation around how non-sewage sanitation is being implemented. We are looking at economist policy opportunities and barriers to implementing non-sewage sanitation, by the way, is off-grid sanitation. Sanitation that is not connected to a system in the city, but that is isolated. So we are working in this space because it is seen as a climate change adaptation strategy, sort of. It saves water, but also, if done properly, this is something that is going to give dignity to our communities, because sanitation is a big deal. There are still quite a lot of people in rural areas that do not have access to proper sanitation. So this project is looking at how do the private-public sector, how can they collaborate in this work to make sure that sanitation, proper sanitation spreads across the country. And of course, what can we as institutions, the research organization, how can we contribute towards it? And we've got in this project partnerships with the Department of Water and Sanitation, Basic Education, Human Settlements, National Treasury. People were laughing at me the other day because I was like, I've been called by National Treasury to go and listen to what they want us to do. They expect us to actually contribute to Operation Vulindlela through our work. They literally call us every year to say, how can you help us? So at DVC, VC, we are not just working at CPUT, we are doing our part as an institution to contribute at that level. And we are looking forward to what we'll get out of this project. We had to extend it by a year, no cost, because I had some health challenges. And then the new baby is our agritourism incubator for small-scale farmer ventures powered through participatory action, research, and social entrepreneurship. I'm sure Dr. Revel loves when he hears these words, because we are finally working towards looking at things that will contribute to entrepreneurship, things that will contribute to farmer livelihood. It's a collaboration with institutions from Germany, CPUT, Stellenbosch University, Bulgaria, and the Agricultural Research Council in South Africa. So we are designing a university-led incubator, and we expect students and researchers and farmers to engage through action research to integrate work. And of course, we are hoping we can also influence markets and things like that. We are working with the hotel school. It's my first time to work with the hotel school. It's an interesting project. I am looking forward to it. The other project that is taking place now is the Community of Practice in Water Governance and Economics. This is actually a big project. We are going to, I said the last objective in the research chair is knowledge transfer. So this project tries to fulfill that objective. So we are going to look at knowledge sharing across the country. We are working in this project at national level, but also at regional level, and how we are going to influence at regional level as well. So we are looking at gaps, opportunities, innovations in water governance and economics. We are looking at how science and policy experts can work together. How can we use that knowledge that is already there? That is why Water Research Commission is actually a partner, because they have a huge knowledge that is sitting with them. And to tell you a story, last week I received in my email the logo of the Department of Science and Technology and Innovation, like literally, and I don't, but that is saying, don't forget that your work is actually funded by us, and it is our work. So we are working at assisting the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation and its partners on how to establish that impact. Prof. Sheldon, you met Dr. Roman. You saw how he wanted to make sure you understand that he influenced the development of the research chairs. So we are working at that level. Of course, CPUT is leading, so yeah, we are getting there. All right, Dr. Revel. That's good news for you. And of course, we've got 5 universities involved. CIRAD, we've got a partnership with CIRAD. They are active partners in this project. We've got also a colleague from University of Waterloo who knows the region quite well, and of course the University of Zimbabwe. And Prof. Ndara is here. He's one of us. We are also dreaming of new things. We have been invited as CPUT as one of the 6 universities that will go to Austria to speak to the International Systems Analysis Organization on how to come up with a regional project. So we could have gone in March, but the flights, something happened. So now the plan is to go in June or September. So we are being sent by the NRF on an errand to go and identify, discuss with EASA on what can be done in the region, including the other governing councils in Africa. The second project that we are involved in is the CIVIS project, which is really a seed funding project to develop consortium. I didn't do much in this project, but I'm eyeing it in a way that we want to develop work on wetlands. I've got a young man at the back there, Dr. Bram Lemin, who is doing great work in, yes, if I could bring him back, I would. I'm trying. But he is involved in wetland work, and we are trying to grow that area. And then the other project is we've got a colleague that we're working with in the UK project. She was approached by the World Bank and asked to do a gap analysis on agricultural water management. And she invited 6 of us from different countries in the region, and we gave her feedback on gap analysis, and she submitted a concept note on our behalf. We are keeping our fingers crossed that something happens there, although we were told that the money is not as much as we thought it would be. But as long as we get something. And of course, I mentioned the SASOF project. Now, let me show what we have gotten out of all this work. I'm showing here, you've already heard the statistics about how much we have produced. But I'm showing you here some pictures of Sempiwe, of Kudzai, of Messi, of Olwet. You know, it's nice to work in a technology university because our students were able to graduate online. So Olwet Sindesi, the master's with 5 articles is this one. Each one of these has published an article. And I must thank CPUT for contributing towards each one of these students. You've heard about our research funding, 27 million, and we've also raised 6.1 million for scholarship funding since 2023, when the research chair started, and we could have students applying through the research chair. We are sitting at 6.1 million. I wish it could be more, because we have more students that require funding. I must say, VC and DVC, I'm privileged to work at CPUT. Most of the students, when I get them, they come with no funding, literally. And then Prof. Berger is sitting somewhere. Where is she? Yes. Then we have to apply for scholarships, for funding, to go for conferences, so the work, the money, the funding that CPUT contributes towards, it might not look much, but we are so grateful because it's making such a big difference for students who would have otherwise quit because they don't have funding. So with us supporting with the research funds on one side and CPUT chipping in with scholarships, we are making a big impact. You have heard about the research awards. I will not say much about them. But the interesting thing is that we've also attracted news houses. I got a call from Deutsche Welle, which is a German, my brother would know that because he studied in Germany, which is a German TV system, to be interviewed for work. And of course, Cape Talk Radio, ENCA News. I remember my colleague saying, Bongani is on TV. But the most interesting for me was Wanele Radio. You see, I speak Xhosa, but it's not perfect. But I volunteered to speak in Xhosa in this interview. It went very well. I enjoyed it. And yeah, those are some of the pictures from the awards. And thank you to my dean and the DVC and Prof. Berger for going with me to these places. I really appreciate it. Collaborators, we've signed officially 8 partnerships with universities, with institutions from across the world. The logos there represent our partners in the research chair, but as well as the people who partner with us every year when we go, whether for WaterNet, whether we go for conferences. And there is also a multitude of people that we have worked with. You see, the Bread Oliphants Catchment Management Agency is actually the other thing that we are hoping we can achieve is, Professor, if you're listening, that living lab kind of thing. We would like to take it back to Bokma. So that is the other discussion that we are having, because we've had a long-term relationship with the CMA. And of course, our farmers, commercial, small-scale farmers, the universities, like I said, it's a multitude of people that we have worked with. Of course, our big boss, Science, Technology, and Innovation, the NRIF, the Water Research Commission, they fund most of our work. So we are grateful. I'm going towards the end now, so I have to acknowledge God, because I'm not sure what would have happened if it wasn't for him. I told you I grew up in Kezi. If you go to Google Maps and look for Kezi now, you really have to look very hard to find it. But God saw it fit that a woman from Kezi can come and stand in front of audiences like this. So let me start by thanking all of you. I mean, I'm looking at all the faces and I'm smiling. Thank you so much for coming. It's a privilege to have you all here. And then let me thank my family. I told you my family is rainbow. I deliberately didn't put the children because of Pia. But this young man here is my son. Like I said, if it wasn't for him, no full professor. So Alfred Sibanda. Thank you, my son. Oh, he's going. My son also went through a difficult time when I was not well, because he had to look after me. And I must also, acknowledge him for that. I've got nieces. This is Alex. I hope you're watching. This is Lindiwe. I hope she's watching. And her brother, Dorian. They are my brother's children. My sisters, this is Christine. We call her Sandy. I hope she's watching. Cisco. And these are my brothers. My sister, my late brother, Busani, was standing at the corner there. And this is Benhilda, my niece. There are not many women in my family, but I think I will be forgiven for showing women only. This is my brother. This is Alan. You saw the Alan that I was showing you. This is him now. He's grown up now. And I have a circle of friends, many of them. You see, the people on this list are people that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, and they will answer me. Marie is at the back there. Marlene was supposed to be here. I'm not sure. Oh, there she is. Marlene, welcome. She is a sister to me, this one. I call her, she's like a big sister. And then Dr. Moyo Doisy, I hope you're watching wherever you are in the UK. Thank you. Shana Ninaba, she is, a different. She's a research manager at Water Research Commission, but when I was ill, she showed me a side of her, which, And then John, I say to him, I like ranting. When I feel like complaining and saying things, I call John. And, and then we will spend time talking. Then I would say, oh, that was good. You've been listening, even though I wasn't making sense. So that's the relationship I have with John. And of course, Anushka, Sandra. Sandra is at the back somewhere, my friend. This one, she makes me laugh even when I feel like crying. Anushka from my ladies. Bongani Sibanda is, I hope you're watching. Bramley, there you are. Hodson Makurira. Caroline Oji. Christian is from the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. And Prof. Mafa. I mean, I've worked with funny people, but traveling with these two made me think research can be nice. Prof. Dara is here. He's the other one that when I can pick the phone and say, hey, this, I must appreciate you for the postgraduate conference, because it was him. Because I said to him, me, I'm sick, I can't go anywhere. He said, why don't we do something? So that's how the big conference came about. Thank you. Shelley, Tanya, this is, like I said, this is my circle of friends. The people that I can say anything to anytime. Thank you. Let me come to my institution, CPUT. Vice Chancellor, thank you so much. You do not realize how much I appreciate that we've come this far. You fought for me when actually I could have been sent home, but you stood and said, no, let's do things this way. And here we are. I am grateful. Your office, our content creator is here. I will not mention it because she's looking at me with Prof. Hesoma is here. Thank you so much. Our Deputy Vice Chancellors, Professor Marshall Sheldon. I say she makes things happen because she, you know how nice it is when people, you can reach them. And they say, I'm gonna do something about it. That's Prof. Sheldon. Prof. Sheldon, thank you. Prof. Balkaran for the student systems, the CPGS office. There's so many people that make us work. You see, when I stand here, you think it's research, but there is the postgraduate office, there is the research office, there is all the people that make us work. I would like to thank my friend, my sister, Professor Festa. Let me acknowledge her especially because the award, the big national award that you saw, she was the one who said, my friend, you've reached this. And I responded casually, like, if you help me. And she said, yes. so, Professor, I wish you were here, but I owe you lunch. Thank you so much. Prof. Mujahid Aziz, Dr. Swat, all these people, they are very kind people in our faculty. Our professors are here. My friend, Prof. Chowdhury, Prof. Chetty, Prof. Ojumu. These are people from the faculty. Who else am I not seeing? Oh, there's Prof. Okudo at the back. Oh my word, it's from Applied Sciences. Thank you for coming. If I do not mention you by name, it's not, Carl Krieger, Prof. Thank you very much, colleagues. The people that are here, I appreciate my faculty because it is a faculty where people gather. As you can see, they are here to support me. Let me thank Ms. Kamali. Ms. Kamali, I wrote in our group this morning that I am so proud to be part of this awesome team, because our department is a department that wishes you happy birthday. It's a department that congratulates you. You know, that's family. So thank you so much, Ms. Kamali and the team and everyone. Dr. Shoko, you have carried so much when I was not feeling well. And things have worked. We are producing, students are graduating because of you. Thank you very much. Joe, thank you very much for all the for all the RFQs. He called them RFQs, all the errors, all the things that he does. And he panics when I'm supposed to travel and things are not. He will be like, I have. You don't have to panic. We'll do this together. And Remy Chibangu, I'm not sure if he's here, but Remy was a very interesting character when I arrived. He's one other guy who made me actually stay. Because I remember sitting with him and saying, Remy, I don't think this is going to work. He said, no. He used to call me Dr. Bongani. Dr. Bongani, no, you're going to be fine. So Remy, if you're watching, thank you. And Prof. Kuma is somewhere. Yeah, I mentioned all the other. There you are. Prof. Kuma is, we co-supervise one of the most interesting students together. So thank you, Prof, for being here. And he takes care of our postgraduate processes as well. And we are in the committees, faculty committees together. And half the time, when I'm not available, I literally send a WhatsApp to say, can you go? And so thank you, Prof, for that. The research office, Prof. Beggar, thank you very much. Nigeziwe, Marvin, Patiswa, Edwino, Luyo, Dr. Beggar, Tanya left CPUT, but all these people have made our work easy. The new director for the Strategic Partnerships Office, Dr. Jitu, thank you so much. Mrs. Bosman, you're watching, I know. You wished me, you sent me all things. Thank you so much. She does our designing of our MOUs. When I get stuck, sometimes I have this MOU and I'm not sure where to send it. So I will call Mrs. Bosman. So where should this one go? She'd be like, no. I'm going to fill the form, don't worry. Thank you for that, Mrs. Bosman. And of course, Dr. Ravel, we sit next to each other at the offices. They are very, there are people that have a very sharp eye. That office has a very sharp eye when it comes to our contracts. Because sometimes they give comments and I'll be like, oh, how come I didn't see this was going to be a problem? They fought a battle with the Water Research Commission sometime. And things worked eventually because of them. Dr. Franzman, he's very efficient when it comes to reviewing our documents. Thank you very much. Central Finance, of late I met Mr. Mlalonga Tabo when we were setting up the systems for the new project. And half the time we don't get him, so I would call him at lunchtime. And then I would start by apologizing to say, oh, you lunch, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mlalonga, with your office. You'll be surprised why I have security at the end. You know what happened to me one time? Joe locked me in the office in the evening. And I'm like, it's getting dark. What am I going to do? The people that were there were the security. And because my car keys, my office keys were in the cars, I was able to point to say, there. So security, I appreciate them. I appreciate the people who clean our offices. I appreciate everyone who helps us, because without them, we wouldn't be here. But there's a very important group that I cannot leave out. These are my students, the current ones. We had a conference for them in November, and they are supervisors, co-supervisors. We've got a number of co-supervisors. I'm not sure if Prof. Odendal made it. I don't see him. He's one of the ones that are anchoring us. There's Dr. Mhlongo, there's Dr. Langamandla, like I said. There's Dr. people that I'm still looking forward to developing something on AI. I know you sent me something. We're gonna do something, I promise, Mr. Dr. Mohammed. I did not forget. So, to the people that anchor the research chair, the co-supervisors of the students, CPUT, UKZN, UWC, Dr. Sbanda, and others, thank you very much. And our collaborators, this is just a picture to show you that when we say we are going to conferences, we don't just eat the food. We we do the work that is required. So this was our session in Lesotho in 2024. And this was our session in Tanzania, in Zanzibar in 2023. The executive director of WaterNet, manager there, Professor Farolfi, Stefano, I know you're watching. Thank you very much for anchoring us. And Professor Damien Jordan, these are CIRAD colleagues. They are always with us. Prof. Mdara is here. I am grateful to all these people. Last but not least, you'll be surprised why I'm thinking a hospital. If it wasn't for Cape Gate Medical Clinic, I wouldn't be here. They patched me up and but out of all this, let me give honor to a great woman. Everyone has seen you because you greeted them. This is Mrs. Catherine Clute. To introduce her again, when she sent an email for this, I responded. I said, I am sick because I was facing a major surgery. I'm sick, I can't do this. And then at 3 a.m. I woke up. I wrote to say, I can't do it at all. And then she phoned me and said, look, I'm going to do something. I'm going to negotiate that you swap with colleagues, with people. So Professor Hetz, thank you very much. He agreed to swap so that I come to this slot. And our dean, because you know when schedules are set, everyone moved things around for me. The VC, the DVC, the dean. Thank you very much. And the book that you are going to see, there is a woman behind it who, I don't know what time that woman works, but she will send me things at 10 p.m. Mrs. Helena Mare. Thank you, Masha. Helena Mare. Thank you so much for reading with such closeness. She edited. You know when you write, you think you know your story, but another person reads it, they pick up the things. So she has done. So Kathy and Mesha, I am grateful for all. I know you did a lot of negotiation. On Friday, I was actually feeling very bad. But here we are. So with that, people, thank you.
I think I just need to mention that before we have Prof. Ramsuru back here, that we have 209 people online. 209 people. 209 people are watching you. So all those people that you mentioned, I'm sure they are watching you. Thank you.
Colleagues, when I introduced Prof. Ncube, I said the following. We recognize her as a scholar of distinction, a leader of impact, and a professor whose work continues to transform lives and communities. And I think the presentation spoke to all those elements. Colleagues, I would like to introduce the responder today, and that is Professor Mudara. Professor Maxwell Mudara holds a PhD in food and resource economics from the University of Florida in the USA. He is a professor of agricultural economics at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, where he teaches agricultural economics and food security. He also serves as the director of the Farmer Support Group and co-director of the Center for Transformative Agricultural and Food Systems at UKZN. Professor Mudara's expertise spans a wide range of areas, including economics of smallholder farming systems, value chain assessments, smallholder irrigation water resource management, the water energy food nexus, food security analysis, food environments, project evaluation and impact assessments, survey design and analysis, participatory research approaches. His research interest also extends to the circular economy in smallholder farming systems, value chain analysis, food waste, climate change, and curriculum development. He has published over 100 peer-reviewed articles in international journals and contributed to several book chapters. In 2016, he co-authored the book Community Innovations in Sustainable Land Management, Lessons from the Field in Africa. Throughout his career, he has supervised numerous master's and doctoral students, making significant contribution to the development of future researchers and practitioners in agriculture and food systems. I present to you Professor Mudara.
Thank you very much, Dean, for the introduction. Vice Chancellor, members of the university management in general, including the echelons of power here in front, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, ladies and gentlemen. It is both a privilege and a pleasure to respond to the presentation of good friend, Professor Ncube. It was eloquently presented, a lecture. We've been exposed to intellectual scholarship that is grounded on relevance to contemporary challenges. Throughout her presentation, she has been looking at contemporary issues that are affecting people that we are living with or that we relate to. I've known Prof. Ncube for a number of years. I think from the presentation, you would have gathered this. And I've also observed her work from a safe distance. Starting with the time she was at WaterNet in Zimbabwe, she mentioned that in the presentation. Until today, we still interact. But she has said that I answer her calls, but at times I don't. Sorry. It's just I have. Yeah, at times I deliberately don't answer the calls. Your achievements, Prof. Ncube, cannot be taken for granted. They've got a history but they've got more like a divine intervention in them, direction in the way you have progressed, especially when we consider this journey against the fact that you're a woman, with the challenges that are hidden behind the whole piece of work that you have done. I think it has been to be commended that you are here. This inaugural lecture marks an important milestone in the academic career of a professor. And this is indeed a key point for you, Professor Ncube, in your career, that you are presenting an inaugural lecture. And in your lecture, you took us through the journey of your research, community engagement, which is very important, which both demonstrate depth of expertise from an academic point of view, but also commitment to social impact. We are finding societal commitment in the work that you are doing throughout, that you want to have a relevance in what the community get out of your work. What stood out for me was the emphasis on connecting theory and practice. The lecture reminded us that universities are not isolated, ivory towers, as the term goes, but active contributors to real-world problems. Universities need to be grounded, and the work that we have seen being presented here is illustrated that we can be grounded on real issues and challenges that communities are facing. Also, the insights that were shared today highlight how rigorous research, when conducted with collaboration and innovation and deep soul searching, can influence policy. Not only influence policy, but can be invited by policy to come and share and come and enlighten policy. And this is what, in my listening, I found that she's interacting with policymakers. I heard mention of Treasury somewhere there. There was a mention of DSTI saying, put our logo, and so on. They are watching, and they are finding that you are all working the right path. I also look at some of the work that you do in the photos that you have presented and see a lot of mentorship role that you have played in capacity building. You take them seriously, you seem to enjoy them, but they are very important from an academic point of view. The professor works with students and early career researchers who then will take over when our time is up. In my observation, rough estimation, I've seen that there are a lot of women that you have also mentored, or at least the women that you are training. So I really take it from your work that indeed your work is not only uplifting the poor, but also those who are neglected, the women of this world, the girl child. Another key point from this lecture is your take of interdisciplinarity and transdisciplinary approaches. my relationship with you is a true testimony of that. But when I look at the whole presentation, you're not only talking to soil scientists, you're not only talking to, in any case, your research transcends into the water and soil that you said you were very well grounded in the University of Zimbabwe, but also looks at institutions, Bridal, I hear, here in Western Cape, and so on. So it is talking about a transdisciplinarity, and it manifests itself in the whole basket of people that you have interacted with. And you have excelled in that regard. You have excelled in testimony to that, which is quite a challenge for a lot of academics. Those who are in the field know that it is difficult to fundraise, but also to bring groups together. Groups that can talk coherently about 7 objectives and so on. And they're all talking about economics, about the farmers and so on. So I find that you are good at that from the presentation. Just reading the presentation, you can find that you are bringing together different teams. And this is evidenced by the continued funding. Funders are not stupid. Some of us don't have those numbers that she's putting there. It is because you are playing the game right. You are bringing the right topics, you are bringing the right teams, and you are raising the right questions that need to be dealt with. So, as we celebrate this journey, we also have to be aware that it's not an end in itself. I saw you've put a lot of thank you at the end. But, well, there's some kind of new stage that you are moving in this journey. And so we are making a change in gear that you are now going to play the game at a higher level. And you are going to ask bigger issues. You are going to take bigger students. Where you had 8 publications, we are going to see 20, and so on. So really, we look forward to this next phase of research and leadership will is built on a strong foundation that we have seen. And we expect that moving forward, it will show results of the foundation. On behalf of all those who are present here, the 209, maybe 220 now, who are on the line, I would like to congratulate you, Professor Ncube, on this milestone. It's no mean feat. A lot of people would strive to have that, but it takes a lot of effort. Thank you for sharing your intellectual journey with us, for inspiring colleagues, students, and also the re-emphasizing the critical role of academia in society. Because you are right that when you started, and I think I heard you right, some of the questions that you're raising would have been considered to be stupid. But now, it is the game. This indigenous knowledge and so on. Yeah? At that time, it was like, what? You are at the wrong place. But now, everybody wants to be associated with that. Yeah. So join me once again in congratulating our colleague on a most insightful and thought-provoking inaugural lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Madara, for your thoughtful response and also your excellent response to the presentation of Prof. Ncube today. Thank you so much for being here, coming all the way from KwaZulu-Natal to be here for our professor. Thank you so much. We are almost at the end of the proceedings for today, so I'm going to call on Prof. Marshall Sheldon, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research, Technology, Innovation and Partnerships, and she will do the acknowledgements for us today. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Kathy. Ladies and gentlemen and distinguished guests, it's my honor now to draw this memorable occasion to a close, unfortunately. On behalf of the CPUT management and leadership, I'd like to acknowledge and thank everybody that contributed and made this afternoon such a huge success. But before I do that, let me just say that, as you mentioned, Prof, this was the fourth and final inaugural addresses for 2026. So far, we have been given a lesson in Botany 101 by Professor Geertz. We've received a lesson in Digital Technology in Teacher Education 101 by Professor Chigona. We received this morning a lesson in Digital Marketing 101 from Professor Dufford, and we've now received a lesson in Sustainable Livelihood 101 from Professor Ncube. Thank you. As a DVC, and for me as an academic, inaugural addresses is such an important event within the academic calendar. Within the life of a university, there's two important events. It's the installation of our chancellor and the installation of our vice-chancellor. But within an academic year, the two important events that stand out for me are inaugural addresses and then celebrating our students during graduation. So it's sad for me that we're bringing this phase of this year to a close, but we will do it again next year. So today we celebrate you, Professor Ncube, a distinguished scholar. Thank you for sharing both your personal and your scholarly journey with us. And on behalf of the institution, now that you've delivered your inaugural address, we officially welcome you into the full professoriate of the CPUT. Can we please welcome her? Then I'd also like to acknowledge our Vice-Chancellor for the opening address of the inaugural lecture. But we see not only for that, we want to thank you for your continued leadership and the environment and support that you provide for fostering academic excellence within CPUT. Thank you so much for your leadership. Professor Ramsrud, for your citation, reading the citation and introducing our responder. But beyond that, for the leadership that you provide within the faculty, and I want to extend it to the broader faculty leadership, Professor Fester, Professor Aziz, and all the heads of departments and the collective leadership that provides an environment that is both supportive and enabling, not only to Professor Ncube, but all our researchers within the faculty. So thank you to all of you. Professor Madura, thank you for your insightful response, but also thank you for joining us in the celebration today. We would like to also wish you safe travels back to KwaZulu-Natal. And then, as demonstrated and as mentioned, and I have to echo this, a journey like this is very rarely a scholarly endeavor. So on behalf of the institutions, I would like to also acknowledge all of the colleagues, all the collaborators, all the funders, all the partners, all the students that contributed through to this journey, and I think that was very evidenced in your presentation today, and I would like to extend our appreciation to all of those stakeholders. Thank you very much. I was introduced to Prof. Ncube's family as number 3 and number 5, so I'd like to thank all of the brothers that are here through number 1 to number 6 for joining us today. And the son, who I've met multiple times because he's always supporting his mom at every event and occasion where they're celebrating her. So thank you for making her submit the application she worked so hard for and having her here today. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, our organizing team, who at a very late and at very short notification had to pivot on Friday and made this possible over a very short weekend. So to the whole organizing team, marketing and communications, facility management, the technical support, Kathy, and everybody that are behind you that we don't see but work so diligently behind the scene to make this possible, please extend our warmest appreciation to everybody. And then to all of you, both the people and the guests present physically and those online, thank you for joining us at this occasion. Prof, we see you, we value you, we appreciate you. We look forward to your continued contributions, and please be assured that we will continue to be here to support you in whatever way we can with the limited resources that we have. So I look forward to what you're going to do next. So with that, everybody, I would like to say thank you, baie dankie, inkosi kakhulu.
Thank you, Professor Sheldon, and also for perfectly summed up all these inaugural professorials we had the 4. So thank you so much, and thank you also for your continued support to our professors. Thank you. Like I said earlier, we had 209 people watching, and that is just an indication of how special you are and all these people sitting here. So let us give another round of applause to our professor. Colleagues, we've reached the end of the formal proceedings of today. Before we conclude, we do have some picture moments that we would like to have at the back. We have our photographer, Tyrick, standing at the back there, waiting for all of you. Prof. Ncube, please don't take your robe off. You are going to derobe now, but you stay in your robe because you're the lady of the moment. So you will stay at the back there. Everybody will just come to you, and they will take pictures. If we can, maybe just have pictures of the family first at the back, and then everybody else afterwards. We also have some late lunch for you as well. So please feel free when you go outside and enjoy the lunch that we have outside for you as well. So thank you very much, colleagues, for attending today, and I wish you a safe journey. Will you all please stand? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you, colleagues.